All right. I'll tell her to check.
All right, everybody, welcome to Apple 121. We are live on YouTube for the first time with our 5,000 subscriber count, which is pretty awesome. So, really great for you guys to be here. We wanted to just come up here and a little bit talk about our journey because some people may not know exactly, we talk about we're former Apple employees, but how this channel got started. And what we want to do from now on is we want to do this every 5,000 subscribers that we get. So that means we have a goal of reaching 10,000. So
There
that is
you
our
go.
goal. Yep. Will here along with Frank here. We're celebrating. He's got his hat on, looking good as ever. Actually, before I do that, I have to introduce him like I used to do at the podcast because it's very important. In fact, it's been so long since I've done this. I have to pull it up, but he is the former Apple creative, retired book publisher, soccer mom recorder, the Jurassic Park owner, black coffee drinker, juror number 12, the keto drummer, Mr. Frank Funk.
Hey, how are you, Will? Good to
Doing
see
great,
you.
man. Doing great, man. We are happy to be here. We are excited to just be here live on YouTube, just to talk about our history, a little bit about what we've done. Even if you're watching us in the past, watching this video, we just want to thank anyone who's ever taken a look at our videos and even subscribed, which is even greater. We really appreciate the feedback we're getting from everyone in our comments section, and we're really trying to do some really, really great things. We really want people to enjoy the content that we're creating. So that is the goal here at Apple 121. But Frank, a lot of people don't remember, but Frank, you were not actually originally on this
No.
podcast. Originally, there was another guy here named Tim. He's been on, if you look at our earlier podcast, Tim is on with me. And my idea was to come up with a podcast that was about Apple retail and our experiences in Apple retail, plus talk about news and what's going on from an outside perspective. Because even though we're not in the Apple system anymore, we really still enjoyed the retail experience. And we wanted to share our stories, our crazy stories, a lot of things that were going on in the Apple retail environment. So we thought a podcast was a great idea. And that's why me and Tim started that. And we call it the Think Different podcast. That's what we called it because we wanted to use uh, we wanted to use the Think Different slogan as part of it.
Yes.
So
Now I
that's
was a guest on one of the podcasts. When you
mhm.
mentioned that, I don't remember what episode it was, but I originally was a guest, and then I don't remember what year it was, but then Tim left,
Yeah. Well, so
and
after a year, Tim kind of decided it wasn't really for him anymore, and that's when I talked to you about it. And we just started doing more YouTube stuff at that time. Like
yeah,
I made a couple videos. We talked about, if you go back and look at our channel, we have Waze versus Apple Maps. That was probably the first really big video that I did, and then repairing a hard drive. I showed how to repair a Mac hard drive since that was from my Genius days, and I bought a brand new hard drive from my uncle. So there were some things I was already doing, and what really changed everything was when we decided to do the Pages video.
yes.
And on our we when I put Pages up there, and that really started to you know blow up. That's when I realized that maybe it was more that's where more of the subscriber count was going to be coming from. Because when we looked at the podcast, and you may have noticed, we have not done many podcasts, and that's
Well,
because we just weren't getting the listeners that I
right,
think we were
right.
looking for. And I think there's so many out there, but the one thing that we did have as an advantage was our training within Apple. So when you came aboard, one of the things I wanted to start doing based on what we were seeing on our YouTube subscribers was people were reacting to the training videos. And Apple took away the one-to-one program, which is what me and you did as an Apple creative, and
Yes.
we really enjoyed that job. And it was just taken away from Apple because Apple just doesn't believe in it anymore, and they don't think. I don't know why, but I mean, maybe you could describe why.
Well, what happened? I believe what happened. You would subscribe to this program, Apple One to One. I believe it was $100 at the time for a
Yeah,
year,
for a year. Mm-hmm.
and you could come in. You would schedule an appointment, 1 hour session with you and a creative, and you could go over any Apple program. So Pages, Numbers, Keynote, Final Cut, GarageBand, Logic.
It was pretty much any Apple supported.
Right. And
Yeah.
and so
So
what happened was you had a lot of people who took advantage of it, but what they were really trying to do was to get the creative to do the project rather
right.
than them learning. And then they would buy it again and again and again. And you would see
The
the
cons
same people and
yeah.
they would really never progress. And so I think
Yeah.
that's
I, and that was not always the case either, but I also think people came in because they wanted to have someone's experience, like someone who had a good
right.
experience. That wasn't the program. The idea was to be in the one run program, and that was it. In fact, there was a cutoff after 3 years. You weren't allowed to be in the program anymore.
Yeah.
But they would just buy a new product or something, and then they would definitely get in there. Actually, Tim's in just sent us some emojis on ours, so I appreciate that, Tim, for the little love there. It's so good to have Tim at least still support us in some way, because I wanted Tim to be a part of this, and I wanted to find a way where he could send a message in or something. But I'm not as familiar doing a live stream in this manner. I do know a little bit about OBS and stuff like that, where you can actually stream from a real thing, but I wasn't able to do that.
Yeah.
But you're correct on that. And the training videos that we started to do when we really started to expand, and we saw people were reacting to that. And then especially when I saw our subscriber count go up, our live count go up, and then the main video that really took over the map was thanks to Mr. Frank over here, because Mr. Frank came out with a numbers video that everyone just understood. And the title we used was, first time users using it on a Mac, where it's like people
Right.
might write, Apple numbers getting started or something like that. But I think the terminology that when we're using it for the first time, it really is bringing it down to a level that everyone can understand.
Well,
And
and
and you
basically
can
an
talk about that.
introduction. You know,
Right.
um, One of the things I always thought that Apple was kind of remiss on, and that was to promote their what used to be called their iWork suite of products, which
Mm-hmm.
essentially is Numbers, Keynote, and Pages. So Pages is like Word, Keynote is like PowerPoint, and Numbers is like Excel. And one of the things that I always like to tell people is that all three of them will read those Microsoft formats. They will
Right.
export to Microsoft formats. You can export it to a PDF. You can
Mm-hmm.
export it to a CSV file. So you have multiple options. Now, unless you're doing some very complex calculations in your Excel spreadsheets, um, numbers can accomplish those same things and um, and we talk about this in a lot of the videos, is that once you learn one program, because the icons they use from one program to the next are the same. So once you learn what that does in one program, it does the same thing in Pages and Keynote. So where people think there's a huge learning curve from one app to the other, there really isn't. It's
Plus,
just learning the concepts.
Plus, it's also Excel is scary. Like it's a scary app to learn. You're thrown with a bunch of you're thrown with a spreadsheet in your face where Apple looks clean. It's white. There's it's only a table. They don't
Yeah.
call it a sheet. Well, it is a sheet, but it's just a table
Well,
within a
it's a
sheet.
more manageable
So
number. The,
right
the, the
and
default sheet is 22 rows by, I don't know,
right.
6 or 8 columns. Whereas in
Mhm.
Excel, you get 8,867
Yeah, it's a
rows.
never
And
ending.
I mean, you're like, why? You know,
Right. Yeah,
um,
and the what was great about that video is that it really took off. Even today, right now, if you were to look up Apple numbers on
you see
YouTube
my
or
picture,
you see your picture, that's right. Your emoji
this
is the
picture over
number
here.
right. If you look up right now on your browser and you went and you looked up Apple numbers and you especially get a first time using Apple numbers or something like that, we're the top video up there. Like there's another guy that does that on a pretty frequently basis. The only thing about him is that he talks about the way he says things on the titles is more about the technical term of what you're doing. When we did like the loan payment or we did how to organize, we would actually use terminology that of things that you could use, like personal budgets, how to create your own budget.
Right,
That's
right.
another one of our more popular videos is is our is using a personal budget template. The top 5 videos right now, 4 of them are of numbers, pages, and pages.
Yeah. I mean, both of those two are, I would say most users use a spreadsheet program and a document program. And
Mhm.
Pages, you can bring a picture right into a document from your photo albums. You can put a border around it, shade it, size it. You can have the text wrap around it. You can uh, have the picture over to the left, the words over to the right, so on. All kinds of different formatting. It also has drop down letters where you can have like a large A or whatever on the page, and then go on from there.
Mhm.
They also have book formats now.
Yeah, there's like two different. It's a dot. You can make a document, and you can make a free floating brochure like I made, and I actually went over
Yes.
my own brochure, and that's one of our videos. If you want to go take a look at any of our videos on our channel, please definitely do. But I also want to talk about our background, and I want to talk to you, Frank, because well, I started Apple back in September of 2008. Am I right on 8 or 7? I'm forgetting what year I'm supposed to be in.
Hey, I
7,
don't
right?
know. I'm old. I don't know.
So
One year's as good as the next to me.
right. So when we started there, uh, I started 3 weeks prior to you.
Yes,
So
that's
we
correct.
have known each other for a real long time. And we're
Yep.
talking like 15 years now,
Yep.
over 15
Yeah,
years.
really. It's
And
amazing.
it's crazy, right? To think of that.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
our first launch was macOS Leopard, right? Was that like your first day?
I don't know if it was the first day, but Freehold was an
Two,
awesome store where we
yeah,
worked.
2007, by the way. That so it came out October 26th of 2007. That's when it was available. So I was there. I remember September. I think it was like September 13th was like my first day, and then you were there not too long after that. So the first launch that we were both a part of, if you really think about it, macOS Leopard, that is 10.15 that
Yeah.
we started there. And that's when the store was laid out completely differently. It was, you had printers, you had software you could buy. The walls were not as clean looking as it used to be. There was also like a speaker section, and
We had to reset the machines every night, remember?
every night, yeah. So we basically had to restart
Yep.
every single
Yep.
machine. Where now that it's automated, back then it was not, and we had to
No.
physically restart. And built in the restart, what was great, cool about Apple wiped everything out during a restart. So they had a
Yes.
custom program. The alarms like were very old school. It's like just a little sticky that stuck right to the laptop, and there it was very much easy to take off
Yeah.
as well, which
Well,
it was
and
definitely very
and we
old
had the
school.
free we would have free sessions. But what was nice about Freehold when with the 1-1 program, I remember Dane Schmidt.
Of course.
Uh
Shout out to
he
Dane.
had he had a woman student working on Final Cut, not Final Cut, Logic.
Logic.
And once she completed her project, we actually scheduled her to come into the store and do like a demo for everybody. The people were in the store. She was playing her guitar, explaining how she recorded it and everything. And I mean, I thought that was really, really good. And I thought that's where um, the 1-to-1 program really shined. I thought they should have done more of that. When someone completed a project, schedule them to come in and explain what they were doing. They could work with the creative that they worked with. But that I think that would have really pushed the program itself into the future. But they didn't do that. So
Hmm.
um
I want to talk about her for a second because you bring up a really good point about her. Someone for unfortunately, she had cancer and she passed away.
did she really?
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, so if you look up Spring Lavelle, that was her name. I'm showing on the screen right now in Apple Music. I don't know if she's really in Apple Music right now. I don't know if her stuff is up there. I don't think so, but you could definitely go on her YouTube page and check it out. It's definitely up there. Uh, but she was the perfect one-to-one student.
Yeah.
And I like, I do want to bring up her page because I think it's important for everyone to look up. And I'm going to put it right now. We're screen sharing something, but I wanted to show you
Mhm.
her page, and I want you to give her a little bit of love.
Yep,
So
that's her.
yeah, so she developed cancer, and she passed away on May 2nd of 2023 is when she passed away. And she
Wow.
definitely kept it private, but she has a lot of videos up there. And the videos of her YouTube channel, everything she does herself. She learned it herself. Obviously, the music she learned, but there's a lot of amazing videos up there that I would like you guys to go check out if you have an opportunity, because Spring was a really good person, and she, even though she wanted to learn Final Cut, she wanted to learn how to edit, and she was just a really good person.
Yeah.
And she was what the one to run program to me represent. If Apple had a person that said, "Hey, this is the kind of person that represents one to one," it's Spring.
Yep. Yep.
And I wish she was recognized for it in some way. Like her website's not even up anymore, which stinks.
Yeah.
But uh, that I go, her music will live on YouTube. And that's the kind of person we were talking about, where that's what the one of her program was designed for. Even though she came back all the time, she was without a
Well,
doubt
well, she was
what
coming back with new things to build on what she had already
right.
learned. She
And
didn't
we
come
and
back to rehash what she
right.
already knew.
And one of the things that I did was I hosted at the Apple Store, I hosted a event where we had multiple people come in to showcase their projects.
Yes.
And Spring was obviously the first person I asked because I knew she was the right person for it. And Spring did a tremendous job showing things up. But it was good to see other people showcase like their photos and things like that. And people, it was good. We had a little bit of an audience, and I put that together. I had to talk to Apple corporate to get that whole thing together. And then they had a sign outside the store, the Freehold
Yep.
store,
Yeah.
to get people to come in. And yeah, because I had to order that. Like I had to get all this stuff approved by Apple corporate.
Yeah.
And they
I, w-
did
I,
it.
I was kind of disappointed in Quaker Bridge. We had a group when we used to do these sessions on photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had three or four people that had a flower club, and they were interested in coming in and learning about photo, but they wanted to have just their club. They wanted to
Hmm.
have
A private.
yeah, but and it would be about 12 people. And in those days, the creatives or limit was supposed to be like 6 people. And Jim and I went to the manager and we said, "Hey, look, we can schedule it like early Saturday morning, early Sunday morning. You know, the whole group can come in." And I thought, because that's when they were big on, we want to reach out to the community and that kind of thing, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And they shot it down. And I was like, well, how the heck do you want to become part of the community? And then when the community comes to you and wants to do this, you say no. It didn't make any sense to me, but
Well, Apple had a business program they ran towards the end where people could sign up, and it was like $500 or something like that. And
right.
then they were allowed to have a certain amount of training sessions. And one of the ones
Yes.
I had to do was motion. I had to explain motion to a studio. So that was my one thing to show them. And then the one program I ran that again I had to go to Apple corporate for was Final Cut Fridays. So on like Friday, an hour before the store opened, we would have these people come to Final Cut Fridays, and I would
Hmm.
do like an hour of breakdown of the app because Final Cut 10 just came out, so
Yes. And
we
that was
had
totally
to
different. That
yeah, it was
that
totally
was a big
different, and so
revamp.
I had to explain it to a lot of people that needed to know how to learn it, and it had a good turnout. I thought we had about 10 a week, and I thought that was a good turnout for what we were doing, and it was free. There was no
Yeah.
one to one because one to one was pretty much going away
Yeah.
at that
The,
point.
we also had one where we had you remember they did what was a database management
Oh,
program that they
File
had
Lock.
for
You talk about there was Bento
FileMaker.
that came
FileMaker.
first. Bento was a small one, and then they had FileMaker, which still exists today. I
Yes.
don't think it's under the Apple umbrella anymore, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't
that
know
was
if
originally
FileMaker
the
still.
only database system
Mm-hmm.
that was endorsed by Apple, and we had a program on that, and that was a really good program. I mean, it
Hmm.
it made what, well, I was originally familiar with DBase. I don't know if you remember DBase or not, but anyway, I love that DBase. I love Paradox was a good man. I love those database management systems, but
Hmm.
FileMaker, you could set up a whole application in minutes and you would have different tables. You could relate them, like we recently had a question about, um, can you have one table with inventory with a product number and then have an invoice go to that based on the product and decrease the inventory and put it on the invoice? And we responded to that person saying, look, it's a spreadsheet. It's not a database management system. And if you're trying to do things like that, that's what a database management system does. So
Hmm.
we forward them on to FileMaker. But that was a good program they had there that day. I like that one.
Yeah, Apple, it's under a subsidiary company of theirs, so it's technically they're still, I believe. It's Claris International. It's a subsidiary of Apple Computer. So it is a company that technically, uh like I don't know if they're necessarily still them or not. And they got rid of the bento program in 2013, and then like they announced that, like, 2019 they're bringing the Claris name. So again, I don't know. It does sound like it's still
Yeah,
a
it's
company that's Apple. I don't.
a
It's just its
distinct
own
cousin.
separate company. Yeah. But I was learning it at the time before I was going to leave the Freehold Apple store, and I decided I wanted to learn something new. And the only thing I really wanted to learn was FileMaker because, to be honest, I was not a fan of Logic. I was not going to learn that. And
Mhm.
then they started getting into the coding thing afterwards, which I was like definitely not ready for at all.
Yeah,
But when Apple stopped one to one, that was like the end of the creative. Like right now in the Apple stores, the creative role is still there. But if knowing the people I talk to now, especially when we visited that store,
yeah,
there's basically no reason for a creative role to exist. It doesn't need to exist. I think Apple Retail needs to find something else for them to do if they're
yeah.
not going to use them in the capacity. Like, good luck trying to. If there's an Apple creative job opening, don't take it. It's just you're going to go into a genius role or something else, and
Yeah, I
you're
was
going to be
just going to
used.
say that used to be kind of a stepping stone. You would go from a specialist to creative to the GR.
Genius. Well, you pick one. You had a path, and that's where
Yeah,
they had the family room specialist role come out. And then at that point, your path was either go creative or you go, genius. Now the thing is, when I became
well, you could
a
go back a house too.
right, I mean, but now like they're on the walls and they're just doing specialist stuff.
Yeah,
They're only when the workshops are available. And some stores, the workshops are great because of the environment, but you can't tell me that every store is like that. Even if you go to Quaker Bridge or Freehold, and I'll still throw Freehold, even though they have a brand new store, they don't have the environment for that kind of people. It's meant for like the bigger stores, the New York stores, the
well,
LA stores. They
one,
they can build something because they're barely opening in malls anymore. I just found out they opened in the American Dream Mall, which I was surprised to hear.
yeah, well,
Who's going to go to the American Dream Mall to an Apple store to get their stuff repaired? Because
yeah,
it takes you $15 with Turnpike and everything just to get there, and then you
yeah,
got to pay to park.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
why would you go to that store?
yeah. The other thing is too. I was always hoping that, well, at Quaker Ridge too, they had the area up near the windows that they really don't do anything with. And I had put in a suggestion to put a glass wall and put the sessions in there, the creative sessions. This way, it would attract people going by the store, like what's going on there? You know what I mean? Would it put a
Mm-hmm.
big screen TV on the one side? And they said, no, we need that for advertising. And what would they do? Put stickers on the windows. I mean, you know, but yeah, and the bigger stores like New York and some of the other bigger cities that they had a dedicated room
Yes.
to for their sessions, which really is conducive because it's quiet. You have a large screen, you have several creatives. You could have one doing the presentation, another going around seeing if anybody needs any help, etc. But
Like with business, they made those briefing rooms. Remember that?
oh
That used
yeah,
to be like you can go there and do a briefing there.
yep,
Like they
yep,
would do that for businesses. We did a lot of workshops like for the blind. That was one of the bigger ones. I went to Philadelphia and did a
yep,
workshop for the
yeah.
blind.
Well,
I
that's
could not
another thing.
believe. By the way, those people, by the way, knew how to use that better than I did because I
Right.
couldn't believe how many people were there. It was the Philadelphia chapter of the blind, and these guys can run across an iPad no problem without
Yes.
sight.
Yep. Yep.
To me, that was amazing. I mean,
And
I had to learn that from scratch.
it's
The biggest
hard
thing,
for
it's very hard.
I say it's hard. It's hard for us because we're so ingrained to doing it with our sight.
Mm-hmm.
If we had to, blindfold ourselves or whatever and try and do that, we'd have to really learn it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the things that Apple really doesn't advertise is all of their accessibility features, both on the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac. I mean, they really in that field, they were forerunners. They had accessibility features for people for the forever from day one. So, and they never really advertised that, they never really
No,
played that up. But
no,
like so
they
many
definitely
other
don't
things,
now.
huh?
They definitely don't now.
Yeah. But
That's for
it's
sure.
still there. It's in every iPhone. It's in every Apple product, the accessibility features.
I
So,
wanted to ask you like what was your favorite video that you created on our channel? Like what was the one that you felt like was like really good?
well, that's a tough question because I always look at them and go, oh my God, this sucks. Uh, um, I
And then
think
I clean it up and make you sound good. That's what I
yeah,
do.
the intro, the one we did recently on the mortgage,
Mm-hmm.
the 30-year
That was a big one. That
mortgage.
was an
Uh,
extensive one. Yeah.
yeah, well, that one was about a half an hour long, so it took some time to put it together. Um, I kind of like that. I like
Mm-hmm.
that one. And we did that was on the iPad. So on the it's for me it was easier on the Mac, but
Mm-hmm.
on an iPad, you know, it took me a little time to put it together. But that was a good one.
Right.
Um,
I
oh,
mean,
I
one
don't
of the
know.
ones I like too is this was hard because I was putting a video up like almost every day. And that's the Black Friday of last year because that was a challenge for me. For me, I had to make a video every week. So, in fact, I made a video on Best Buy, then Staples the next day. Then I
Yeah,
took
yeah,
about a
yeah.
week off. And then I did like Black Apple Store came out with their Black Friday deals, and Target did, then Walmart did. Like there was a lot, and Black B&H. There was a lot of stuff. Um, we had to come up with. So I like when there's like stories that are coming up right now that we have to talk about right now. Like you just did the Apple Card with Goldman Sachs, and that video, believe it or
Yes,
not,
yes.
got very popular. And I
I
don't know
was thinking
why.
about that the other day because
Yeah.
no, I've been looking and there's nothing about it anywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only thing that I found is that the percentage for the Apple savings account went from 4.35 to 4.50%.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're putting money in your Apple savings account, you're going to be getting 4.5%
Yeah, it's
annually.
happening
So
now.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I those are the ones I like doing is the spur of the moment. We have to create something really quick. And honestly, like I'm amazed at some of the views I get because I don't put a lot of effort into those. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's very quick. I just screen share and just look up like websites that I find the content on. A lot of times I ask you to create a lot of the content because let's face it, Frank, you don't work. That's the truth. I mean, you don't work. I mean, you have the
Uh,
time. So I mean, I
yep,
have to put it together. I always have to edit them. I'm obviously always editing the stuff. But what's great about this platform too, Frank, is that you now have your own YouTube channel, and because you're learning stuff.
yes, I am.
Frank has his own channel on his drumming channel. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because you're kind of like learning on your own yourself.
Well, it started out where I was trying to get some guys together to play music, and everybody said, yeah, yeah, yeah. And nobody would call me and nobody would come back. I said, well, is this day okay? Is that nothing? So I finally said, the hell with you.
Mhm.
Then I started downloading music, breaking it out into four separate tracks, five separate tracks actually, putting it into Logic. And then I mic my drums and I play along with the song, mute the drum track, record my drums, mix it in Logic Pro, output a file,
Mhm.
and then at the same time that I was recording the drums in Logic, I would also film it on my phone. Then I would bring that video into Final Cut, and um, I would bring the audio from Logic into Final Cut, and I would synchronize those clips, and I would mute the clip. Yeah, mute the audio on the clip itself because the only thing it was picking up was me playing the drums. It wouldn't have any of the other backing tracks. But the synchronized clip would contain the file from Logic, all the backing tracks, my drums, and match it to the video.
Right.
And so I just started posting those videos out on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
And you said you got some views so far, and you're learning because like you're asking me questions, and I'm hoping one day we can make a video about that because you ask
yeah,
questions that I
like,
think a lot of people would like to know about. Uh, and so far, how would you feel like the progress of the channel is?
well, I have 50 some subscribers. It's only been active for, I'd say 5 months, maybe if that. And again, it's just word of mouth. Um, I was expecting more comments on the videos.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, I, I'm resigned to the fact that I'm doing this for me, if you know what I
Right.
mean.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
and
That
if
makes sense.
you know, I'm thinking of doing a video from, I'll call it my studio, air quotes, my studio, on all of the equipment I'm using,
All right.
starting with the mixer, the mics, my drum set, the programs I'm using. Well, actually,
Mm-hmm.
I have more than one drum set, but um, the cymbals and really talking about the equipment I'm using and how
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't know if anybody would be interested in that, but I know if I go to a
Well,
site and I like the mix of it, I'll comment to the person, say, "Hey, what mics are you using for this? What mixer are you using?" and that kind of stuff. And they always respond to me and tell me. So, and they ask me what
mhm.
my channel is, and then I tell them, and they look at that, and I do get some comments that way. So that's good.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's a good segue into, what we're going to be coming up with now on the channel. So we've been talking about some other content that we want to do. One of the things I want to do, and I've been asked in some of our comments of other videos, is iMovie. So since I have a background in film, I have my own YouTube channel showcasing my editing work, but unfortunately, because it's all copyrighted music, can't really make any money off that channel. So what I do basically is just publish the videos there. But I think iMovie would be a good idea to start a video on. I also suggested that we should do stocks and the weather app just to get some other apps in there that we normally don't cover because I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good stuff for people to start off with from scratch. So we're hoping to get content like that. We're definitely going to keep going down the numbers rabbit hole. Obviously, the numbers is what our channel probably is repeated for is the number stuff and iWork and anything to do with those things. We haven't dabbled much into Keynote, and I don't know why. I just don't know if I did do a getting started with Keynote video, but we never rode that all the
I
way.
well, it wasn't very popular, but I think if people are watching this or
This thumbnail was
comment
made in
on this,
Keynote.
what's
So, I
that?
mean, this thumbnail is made in Keynote. I
Yeah.
mean, everything we post on our thumbnails, I have a whole video on how I create the thumbnails. So if you want to learn how to create a thumbnail in Keynote, I actually do have a video about that. So please go check it out on our channel. We have playlists for everything. Numbers is up there as a playlist. Everything is there. The news section when we talk about Apple News. Speaking of Apple News, let's talk about something that's very current. Apple is in some kind of deal, what they think, with Google, with their assistant, right? That was something, I don't know if you read about that, Frank.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so there's a that's what the stock's been kind of creeping back up a little bit, and that is because Apple is in talks with Google to use their AI. So
Oh, that's
almost
not
like
good.
Apple's almost kind of going with Google's AI assistant in a way. I don't know why they're thinking about that, but maybe Apple's just like, we aren't figuring it out, you know. So I thought that was very interesting that Apple and Google are in discussions to bring Google's Gemini AI to the iPhone. And what do you think about that? That they're going to go outside of
Mm.
that they're in
Uh,
negotiations to license it.
well,
Obviously, it's because Apple knows they're falling behind. That's just the realist of it.
well, hmm, what do I think about that? Well, regardless of whether they're falling behind or not, I don't necessarily think Apple's big thing is privacy. In my mind, that's one of my primary reasons for being on the Apple infrastructure. And anytime anybody is in talks with Google, that's when I
Scary.
get a little scared.
Well, I think
Not
what
because
Apple's
of their
going to do,
product, but
well, I think here what Apple could do is that whatever content that Apple captures will not go back to Google as a useful information.
uh-huh,
That's what I think that's going to happen. That's the only way to protect Apple's privacy
yeah,
on that. But I think it's a good idea if they're falling behind the AI space, which I think they are. They need if they can't figure it out, then I mean, we already talked. I mean, the Apple Car got canceled. That was a whole big story. That's why Apple's stock tanked last week
yeah,
because Apple announced that the car was no longer being, even though they never announced anything, they never
right,
made
right,
anything
right,
public
yeah,
about it. People were
yeah.
up in arms that the Apple Car was canceled, which I thought was stupid. I mean, who's going to bring their Apple Car to the Genius Bar, make an appointment, and be like, "Hey, listen, the car, the thing won't close, like it won't close." And then my favorite answer to that would be, "Well, did you turn the car off and turn it back on?"
Well, my burning question was, if Apple made a car, would it have windows?
Yes. Well, they talked about like an anonymous driving, that there were like literally the back seat would be almost like a limo setup where you just sit
Yeah.
there and let the car drive itself. There's some crazy
Uh,
concepts, but I thought it was stupid. I really didn't like the idea of an Apple car. I thought that was just against Apple's DNA completely. They came out with this Vision Pro. I don't know, Frank. The buzz is gone on that product. I'm not hearing anything about it anymore.
yeah, but
Uh,
you know what? And that's
I mean,
true. Everything you're saying is true. But here's
yeah, the
here's
buzz is gone. Like I thought the Apple Watch was the buzz was a little bit longer, but we were also working at the store at the time. I can't say. I wonder if I went back today, how many people have made reservations? Could you walk in right now and go
uh,
put a Vision Pro on your head right away?
without a
That
doubt, yes. Without a
and I
doubt.
think you could
Absolutely.
because I
Yes.
don't think the buzz is there anymore, and no one's gonna buy it. Plus, there was all this rumor of people returning them very quickly. There's even a weird issue with a stress crack that apparently is happening on down the
Uh,
center of the Vision Pro.
well, I
Uh,
think, that to me, that was one of the sessions that we did in the Apple store. And even to this day, people ask me about it, and I say, listen, you have to go try it. I said,
yes,
it's
yeah, but are
each
you gonna? But no one's gonna walk out with one either. To be fair,
that may be, but just the
right,
experience to see, they say, well, will I use it? I said, I have no idea. If
right,
if if you have a family in your home when you come home from work, you're going to put that on? No.
no,
If you're working from home and you're there by yourself, absolutely you would. Okay. But
Mhm.
I said, go and experience it because in my mind, that's where computing is going. You may not have big screens like we have right now or two screens. You're going to have that. Now, will it be that big apparatus that you wear on your eyes? You
Mhm.
know, as time goes on, maybe not. Maybe they'll be as thin as my glasses, you know? Not that my glasses are thin, but, thin looking. Um, but it was a phenomenal experience. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think about that and I think, boy, I would love to have one of those. Now, again, is it practical? No, but it's one of those things, you put that on, you're in your own little world.
Yeah. I'm hoping for good things with that. But as of I don't. I think that price is just really high. I mean, right now this year we're looking forward to. I wrote a video on what I think the iPad needs coming up. We
Right,
obviously have
right.
iOS. We have the new iOS coming out this year. So last year was a slow year. I think this year, we're going to see a little bit of pickup. We'll see what happens on there. But Frank, since we've been on here about 40 minutes, I feel like we covered everything we need to cover.
Yep.
Anything you want to say? To the 5,000 subscribers or plus that we have.
Listen, the only thing I want to say is thank you. It's
Yeah.
been a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can continue to have more fun and produce some useful videos. So, to everyone out there that subscribed and enjoys our videos, please make a comment if you can or want to. We do respond to pretty much every
Every
comment.
comment. Yeah.
So it's
Do it
it's
while we
been
can
fun.
because if once we hit 10,000, once we hit 15,000, don't know if we could hit up every
I
comment.
don't know if
Now
I'll be
Frank can
around when we
because he's
hit
retired,
10,000.
but
No,
just saying.
because I'm old.
Yeah. We got to do this as long as Frank's alive, guys. We got to
Yes, yes.
keep this going. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I mean, this just ended up being something just for fun that me and Tim wanted to do originally. And when the podcast section really wasn't going anywhere, there wasn't. I can see why Tim didn't want to be a part of it, and he wasn't a trainer either. So you coming aboard really helped this channel immensely because obviously this channel wouldn't even be
Well,
here
not
without
only
you.
my knowledge, but my good looks. I mean, let's
Yes,
face it. Come
yes,
on.
and
If
then
me
yes, and then
against you,
you
you're
add to
losing
the
all the way
layers of
down.
your amazingness that is, the certain things you tell me, and then I add it to your opening when we did the
Yes.
podcast section. It was really funny uh, to that. But I just want to say thank you, everyone. We don't make a ton of money off this. Me, honestly, we take our wives out to dinner with the
Yep.
money that we make, so we don't really do anything crazy with it. It's really nice to have some kind of money in coming in. We go out with our wives. We have a good night. That's what we use the funds for. And we're the more we grow, we're hoping to create more and more videos. And we want you guys to tell us what you want. So please, in the comments or email or Facebook or Instagram, tell us what exactly you want us to do. Tell us what you want to see. And especially if you leave a super chat or if you send us any kind of compensation, you know, we'll definitely make the video that you want.
Well,
And we're hoping in the future, once we have a certain amount of subscribers, that we could do something very special with this channel, especially when you're a subscriber of the channel and we only do some certain videos for our subscribers, you know, and
yeah.
that's and we'll eventually get to that point. I mean, I'm hoping we will. But
Or
otherwise,
would people be interested, or our subscribers be interested in a personal 1 hour sessions with us?
right. Yes, and that's something we were thinking about doing was if you want to do a personalized session, we feel like we have to get our subscribers up. Like for me, the big tell would be is if we would have a full chat of people, like 100 people at a time, to really listen to what we have to say, and that's how I'll determine that. But as of right now, I'm having fun. We do this once a week. We will keep pumping things out once a week. We might throw a podcast here and there that we want to talk about, but right now, the training is what we want to stick with, and we just appreciate you guys coming aboard. And we've been having a lot of fun doing this. And Frank,
Yes.
this just helped grows our friendship even more from our Apple experience at working at Apple for 10 to 11 years that we worked
Yeah.
there together. You were, I said goodbye to you when you walked out of the store, and then only a couple of months later, I was out. So
Yeah.
it's like our journeys were very closely tight
Yeah. Both
with
in
it.
and out.
Yep. And yeah, so I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the stream. We really appreciate if you watched it, if you were watching, or if you came after the fact. Thank you very much for watching our stuff. We appreciate every single one of you, and we
See you
love
next time.
every single one of you.
Peace out, man.
All right.
All right. Very good.